This summer wasn't like any other summer I've had before. It wasn't fireworks, barbecues, or late-night drives. It was something much darker. I want to share with you one of the scariest true stories I've ever experienced. I live in upstate New York, right at the edge of a dense forest that stretches for miles. The house might look cozy during the day, but at night, when the woods turn silent and black, it becomes a different world. This summer started off like any other. I'd go on runs in the evenings, relax on my porch, and watch fireflies light up my backyard. But late in June, things started happening that I still can't explain. It began with noises. At around 2 a.m. one night, I woke up to what I thought was someone walking around outside near my porch. I lay in bed, frozen, just listening. Leaves crunching, slow, deliberate footsteps. I grabbed the baseball bat I keep near my bed and tiptoed into my living room. From the window I could see movement on my lawn, but it wasn't a person, at least not in the usual sense. What I saw was a pale figure, standing near the edge of the woods. I know how insane that sounds, but it wasn't a trick of light. The figure was tall, thin, and completely motionless. Its head was tilted, almost too far to one side, like its neck was bent wrong, and it was watching my house. I blinked, and suddenly it wasn't there anymore. I thought maybe I was seeing things, so I grabbed a flashlight, opened the front door, and shined it towards where I saw the figure. That's when I heard it. From deep inside the woods, there was this screeching wail, high-pitched and unnatural, almost like metal being scraped against glass. It seemed to echo through the trees. I ran back inside, slammed the door, and locked it. The next morning, I convinced myself it was an animal, but the more I thought about it, the less that made sense. That shape I saw, it looked human. A week later, things escalated. I had some friends over for a small cookout. Everything was normal. We grilled, laughed, even sat around a small fire pit. But as the night went on, one of my friends, Jack, pointed out something across the yard. "Dude, who's out there?" he whispered. We all turned and looked. At the tree line, just beyond the glow of the fire, there was the same pale figure, standing perfectly still, watching. My stomach dropped. We stood frozen, trying to make sense of what we were seeing. One of my other friends, Sarah, pulled out her phone flashlight and shined it in that direction. The light illuminated for just a couple seconds before the figure slipped backwards into the woods. It didn't walk. It didn't run. It moved almost like it glided into the trees. Jack shouted, "What the hell was that?" But none of us had an answer. We decided to pack up and go inside, locking every door and window. I barely slept that night. Early August, something happened that forced me to accept this wasn't just my imagination. At around 3 in the morning, I woke up to the sound of my front porch creaking. It wasn't just once, it was footsteps. Slow, heavy, deliberate footsteps crossing the wood beams of my porch floor. My heart sank into my stomach. I tiptoed to the peephole, and what I saw still gives me chills. The same pale figure, standing just inches from my door. Its face was pressed up against the glass of my window panel, not knocking, not speaking, just pressing itself there. Its skin looked gray and waxy, like it had been dead a long time. Its eyes were dark, empty sockets, and the head tilt it was so far sideways, it almost seemed broken. I froze, gripping the bat tighter than I ever have. I wanted to scream but couldn't make a sound. Whatever that thing was, it knew I was just inches away on the other side. After what felt like forever, the figure slowly turned away, crossed my yard, and disappeared into the woods again. The next morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I went into town and told a neighbor about what I'd been experiencing. He looked disturbed, almost like he already knew. "You've seen him too?" he asked quietly. When I asked what he meant, he told me a story from years ago. Apparently, a man went missing in those woods over 20 years ago. People claimed he was mentally unstable and wandered too far during a storm. They never found him, just his torn clothing near the tree line. Locals had whispered stories about a figure they'd see in the woods late at night. Tall, pale, broken appearance. Some thought it was a ghost. Others thought something else lived in the forest. He told me, "Nobody stays out late around here anymore. Not after dark. That thing, whatever it is, it watches." The last time I saw it was the most terrifying moment of my entire life. It was mid-August, and I was in bed, scrolling through my phone at around midnight. Out of habit, I glanced at my window. It was there, not outside, not at the tree line. It was inside, standing in the corner of my bedroom. Its tall, skeletal frame bent in half to fit just under the ceiling. That broken head tilt staring directly at me. I remember dropping my phone instantly. My chest felt tight, my body completely paralyzed. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying it would vanish. But just before I did, I saw its face curl into something like a smile. When I opened my eyes again, it was gone. The door was locked. No signs of forced entry. Nothing. Like it had never been there. But I swear to you, it was. I haven't seen it again since. But I don't walk near the woods anymore. I don't sleep with my blinds open. And every creak in the house at night makes my blood run cold. It's been months now, and I still don't know what I saw. A ghost? A spirit? Something that never was human at all? All I know is, something followed me that summer. And if I saw it once, I'm terrified it might come back.
If you're watching this, settle in. Because what happened to me and my family this summer is not the kind of story that makes the news. It's not the kind of thing you'll hear around campfires or see on TikTok. But it's very real. And for me, it changed everything I think I know about fear. I never believed in ghosts. Not until this summer. It all started when my family moved from Massachusetts to a small town in the northeast corner of Pennsylvania, right along the edge of the Pocono Woods. The house was a colonial with peeling paint and a big, sagging barn out back. My mom was obsessed with it. My dad thought it would be a perfect project, and I just wanted somewhere quiet to spend my vacation before college. At first, it felt peaceful. No neighbors for a half mile, no traffic, just silence. By the third night, I started noticing things. The air felt heavy. There was a faint, bitter scent in the halls at night, like ash. I chalked it up to old insulation or the barn. But soon the noises started. It began as a distant thumping in the attic. Then, late one night, I heard whispering from inside the walls. I figured it was the pipes or my imagination, but the voices grew louder. And on the fifth night, I woke up to what sounded like footsteps in the upstairs hallway. I texted my older brother in the next room. He replied, "You hear someone walking around?" The next morning, we decided to explore the barn. Dust hung in the shafts of sunlight on the loft. The air was thick and warm, and every step made the old wood creak. That's when I saw it. A child's handprint pressed into the dust on the windowsill. Too small to belong to either of us. My brother laughed it off. Maybe a raccoon, maybe some old stain. But that night, things got much worse. Around 2 a.m., I heard what sounded like laughter coming from inside the barn, high-pitched and echoing. I lay in bed, wide-eyed, heart pounding, listening as the sound drifted towards the house. Then, 3 sharp knocks on my bedroom window. I was on the second floor. When I looked out, I saw nothing but the swaying trees in pale moonlight. The next morning, I was tired than I had ever been. My mom was pale and quiet at breakfast. She asked, "Did either of you have a nightmare?" Both of us shook our heads. We went into town later that day. At the local deli, an old man at the counter asked if we'd moved into the Stanhope place. My mom smiled and said yes. He leaned forward, serious. "Don't let your kids play in the woods at night, not since the fire." My mom tried to laugh it off, but his tone was dead serious. Back at the house, I did some Googling. Apparently, 30 years ago, a fire in those woods killed a child. No one talked about it much. Police never found the body. I felt a cold chill run down my spine. That night, my dad decided to keep the barn padlocked. But as darkness fell, the old bitter scent returned, more intense than ever. At midnight, as I lay half asleep, I heard heavy footsteps coming up the stairs. The doorknob began to rattle, slow, persistent, like someone testing the lock. I called for my parents. No answer. Suddenly, the footsteps stopped. In that instant, I saw a pale face hovering outside my bedroom window. Eyes wide, empty, mouth twisted into a perfect O. I screamed, but my parents and brother ran in breathless, finding nothing. For the next few days, weird things kept happening. Pictures would fall off walls. My phone would die even while charging. My brother swore he saw shadows darting behind the bathroom door, but nobody was there. We even found small, muddy footprints near the back steps. It hadn't rained that week. One night, in the kitchen, I noticed my reflection in the window. Only there was someone standing behind me. A child, eyes dark and hollow, reaching for me. I turned, nearly knocking over a chair, but when I looked again, the window was empty. Trying to calm my nerves, I started cleaning out the attic. Behind a pile of rotting boxes, I found a small crate sealed shut with old, brittle masking tape. Inside were scorched children's toys, blocks, a rag doll, a card with the name of Sarah on it. There was also a faded photograph. A little girl, maybe 6, staring at the camera in front of the barn. I felt sick. It was the same face I'd seen outside my window. Desperate, I convinced my family to try something, anything to understand what was happening. We lit candles and sat cross-legged in the living room. We tried old seance tricks, asking out loud for a spirit to speak. Nothing happened for a long time. Then, all at once, the candle flames pitched side to side. The bitter scent filled the room, almost choking us. My mom, tears streaming, whispered, "Is someone here?" Every candle went out at once. That's when I heard laughter from the basement. I'd never liked our unfinished basement. This time, armed with flashlights, we crept down the stairs. The laughter grew louder and louder, echoing off every damp brick. We found a circle of tiny, charred footsteps beneath the furnace. In the corner, the old crate I'd found in the attic, now somehow down here, burned faintly, as if it had just come from a fire. Suddenly my brother screamed. A pale, small hand reached out from under the furnace, snatched his ankle, and vanished. We bolted upstairs, locking the basement tight. The next morning, my neighbor came by to introduce herself. She asked, "Does your family know about the old tenant?" My mom frowned. "No, what happened?" She told us the previous owner, briefly in the house, claimed his young daughter vanished one night after wandering into the woods, never found. He left a week later, swearing the house was cursed. We asked about the fire. She looked away. It was arson. Nobody was ever caught. That night, just before dawn, I found myself drawn to the barn. I followed the bitter scent out the back door, across the dew-soaked grass. Inside, the air was ice cold. I saw the small handprints everywhere, on the windows, the walls, the floor. Suddenly, the barn door slammed shut behind me. In the pitch darkness, I heard that same child's laugh. Then light. The rag doll from the attic, now gripped by pale, tiny fingers. She stepped into view. Eyes hollow, face twisted in sorrow. "You weren't supposed to see," she whispered. Her voice sounded distant, almost underwater. Suddenly, the walls began to flicker with orange light, like flames licking the wood. The scent of burning flooded the barn. I felt hands clutch my legs. I tried to run, but every step felt like I was sinking into thick mud. The girl's voice echoed, "Come play. Come play in the fire." I screamed for my family. Lights flashed outside. My dad smashed through the barn window, dragging me out as the flickers vanished. No sign of the girl, no fire, only the smell. We left the house by morning. Weeks later, the house burned to the ground in a lightning storm. Police found nothing but ashes, a few cracked blocks, and a scorched child's doll. To this day, I can't walk near a forest at night. Sometimes, when it rains, I swear I hear her laughter in the wind, and that bitter smell drifts beneath the door.
If you're new here, make sure you're somewhere safe before hitting play, because tonight's story is easily the most terrifying experience I've ever survived. Some stories are fiction. This one is not. It happened to me this summer, and I'll never forget it. I grew up in a suburb of Minneapolis, Minnesota. My best friend Tom and I have camped in the Superior National Forest every summer since we were 12. We always joked about urban legends, haunted woods, and creepy stuff from Reddit, but our summer trips were always peaceful. Until this year. This time, Tom suggested we go deeper into the forest than ever before. He'd found a place on a topo map, an old, abandoned fire lookout cabin. The area hadn't seen campers for years, and the path had mostly overgrown. Tom claimed it was the ultimate haunted camping spot. We packed our gear, threw our phones in airplane mode, and set out with high hopes and a little unease. When we finally reached the place, it was even creepier than the photos. The cabin was small, gray from weather and age, with broken windows and rotted steps. Tall pines surrounded everything, like a living cage. Inside, dust and debris covered the floor. There were old photographs nailed to the wall, black and white images of families, all with their faces scratched out. I felt an instant chill. I almost convinced myself to leave, but Tom laughed and started unpacking. We set up camp inside, sleeping bags side by side on the old wood floor. We built a fire in the rusted ring beside the porch, cooked dinner, and listened to the forest settle into a deep hush. By 10 p.m., the woods were black as ink. That was when the trouble started. Lying on our sleeping bags, I heard faint noises outside the cabin. I figured it was wind or distant animals, but then came a distinct scraping sound, like fingernails dragging across the walls. Tom joked that it was forest ghosts, but the sound got louder, circling the cabin. I checked my watch. 1:32 a.m. Suddenly, there was a loud slap, a hand against the window just above Tom's head. We sat up, hearts racing, shining flashlights through the glass. Something moved fast. A pale figure darted between the trees. Tom called out, but the forest swallowed his voice. The woods felt alive, and not in a good way. We locked the cabin door, a flimsy measure against whatever was outside. The next day, things seemed normal. We hiked and explored the area, but every so often we'd feel watched, like invisible eyes followed us at every moment. We found something strange behind the cabin, a circle of small rocks, each painted red, surrounding a pile of animal bones. Nearby, a tree trunk was marked with dozens of deep scratches. It looked deliberate, like someone or something had tried to carve words. Tom wanted to take photos, but his phone wouldn't turn on. The battery was dead, even though he'd charged it that morning. That evening, I caught movements out of the corner of my eye, figures slipping behind trees, gone before I could focus. We kept the fire burning until dawn. I woke around midnight to soft chanting,
low voices whispering from the forest, slow and rhythmic. I nudged Tom awake. We sat in the dark, clutching our flashlights. Suddenly, the noises stopped. Then came footsteps, heavy, deliberate, crunching right up to the porch. Something knocked 3 times on the cabin door. We froze. Then a child's voice drifted through the window. "Let us in. It's cold." I crawled to the window and peered out. On the porch stood a small group of children. Dirty clothes, blank, pale faces, their eyes impossibly dark. They weren't human. Their smiles stretched far too wide, showing too many teeth. My blood went ice cold. Tom whispered, "What are we to do?" I whispered back, "Don't open the door." At dawn, Tom found a moldy old notebook behind the bunk. It was a cabin logbook filled with entries by fire lookout crews from the 1950s. The last pages were frantic and chaotic, one message repeated over and over in shaky handwriting. "Don't let the children in. They're not alive. Don't let the children in." Tom gulped. "We have to leave." But our path back was gone, choked by thick fog. Every trail we tried led us back to the cabin. It was like the woods wanted to keep us trapped. Late that afternoon, a voice called from the woods, a tired, cracked whisper. "You shouldn't be here." A man appeared, ragged, wearing a faded ranger jacket. He claimed he patrolled these woods years before. He refused to come close, but warned us, "They want you. If you see children, don't let them speak. Don't look them in the eyes." Then he melted into the trees and disappeared. We never saw him again.
That evening, the fog thickened. The air felt heavy and electric. As night fell, I heard footsteps inside the cabin. Small, quick feet pattered across the floor. We spun and pointed our flashlights, but nothing was there. Just as we tried to calm down, the chanting began again. Whispers rose all around us, pressing close. The floorboards rattled and the window glass flexed like it was breathing. Then, the front door burst open without a sound. The children were back, standing just inside the doorway. This time their faces were twisted, dark hollows where eyes should be, gaping mouths stretched beyond human limits. Above them, faint figures flickered, adults shadowy and silent, watching with hunger. Tom bolted for the door, but it slammed shut. We were trapped. Suddenly, the children began to circle us. Their hands joined, their voices chanting. The walls of the cabin shifted, wood splintering and bending. Shadows poured in through cracks, swirling around us like living smoke. Tom tried desperately to call for help on his dead phone. I screamed for anyone, hoping the ranger Ellis would return. One child broke from the circle and stepped forward. Her eyes met mine, dead black, endless. She whispered, "Stay, stay forever." Everything turned black. I woke up outside, flat on my back in the clearing, rain pouring down. Tom was beside me, dazed and crying. It was noon. The cabin had vanished. No ruins, no debris, just wet, muddy grass. We stumbled out to the road. A car stopped. It was a ranger patrol, confused to see us so far from any trail. We told them our story. They said the cabin burnt down 50 years ago, a fire that killed several children hiding there after running away from a nearby summer camp. No one built at the site again. The ranger insisted we'd wandered in circles and probably hallucinated from dehydration, but Tom and I knew better. Back home, Tom recovered quickly, but I couldn't sleep. Every night I'd hear chanting in my dreams, and sometimes woke to find mud and pine needles on my sheets. One day I got a package, no return address. Inside was a small, red painted rock and a faded photograph of me and Tom standing in front of that cabin, smiling, surrounded by a ring of pale children. But we never took any photos on that trip. Since then, I refused to go near any forest. Tom moved out to California, to the city. Sometimes I hear his voice in my phone, late at night, whispering, "Don't let the children in." But Tom isn't calling me. He smashed his phone and changed his number after that summer. Something followed us home, I think. Sometimes in my dreams, I return to that cabin, trapped in fog, surrounded by voices, unable to wake up. Sometimes I see Ellis, the ranger, standing behind a window with hollow eyes, and sometimes I see the children, standing by my bed, asking to come in. If you made it to the end, let me know in the comments what you think happened to us. Have you ever had a haunting after a real experience? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more chilling true stories.